I'm sorry about that. I couldn't get in. Sorry.
Yep. No,
When
no
you're ready,
worries.
President Peters.
All right.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yep, you got it. Thank you, Ben. Okay, at this time, I'd like to call to order the North Canton City Council meeting, June 22nd, 2020. The time is 7:03 p.m. Opening prayer, Mark, Dominic?
Dom, would you like to do that tonight?
Yes, I would. Thank you.
All right, good. Dominic, thank you.
Lord, thank you for the opportunity to let us share our community thoughts and look out for the interest of the majority. In God's name, we want to make sure that we are always doing our level best to do the right thing. I wish that all of us will enjoy our summer and be safe and stay healthy from COVID. Amen.
Amen.
Yeah.
All right, at this time, if you would please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, to the republic
for which it stands, one nation,
under God, indivisible, liberty and justice
for all.
All right, thank you, folks. All right, Ben, at this time, please roll.
Member Foltz.
Here.
Member Peters.
Here.
Member Stroya.
Here.
Member Sreda.
Here.
Member Fonte.
Here.
Member Revolt.
Here.
And Member Warren.
Here.
7 present.
All right, thank you very much. And for your consideration tonight, need a motion and a second to approve as presented. Minutes from June 1st, 2020, public meeting on Ordinance 23-20. Minutes from June 1st, 2020, special committee of the whole. And minutes from June 8th, 2020, city council meeting.
Motion to approve as presented.
Sreda, second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. At this time, we will move into recognition of visitors. Ben, I will turn it over to you. Just a quick reminder, there is a 5-minute time limit. And have at it.
All right, up first is Mr. Chuck Osborne. Mr. Osborne, are you there?
I am here.
When you're ready, sir.
Okay, Chuck Osborne, 307 Fairview Street, Southeast North Canton, Ohio. I am addressing the third reading of Ordinance number 19, 2020, which proposes to resurrect the city's CRA program. The legislation as proposed by North Canton's Chairman of Economic Development is fashioned to encourage the removal of substandard housing in the city and rebuild back on the same property a structure valued at a minimum of $250,000 with tax abatements. This would be a noble outcome if this were a realistic, doable activity from the vantage point of a prospective homeowner. I contend that despite the fact there's generous abatement of property taxes, that homeowners will see the downsides of this situation and will not participate for several reasons. I will explain using the figures offered by Economic Committee Chairperson Darrell Revolt in his color slide presentation from 2 weeks ago. In that presentation, Mr. Revolt uses 4 properties in the city, one from each of the North Canton's 4 wards, as examples of where this legislation could be instrumental in revitalizing property. Mr. Revolt refused to give me exact parcel numbers or addresses of these examples for reasons only known to him. The average cost to acquire these properties, land, and existing structure was $98,800. Stated demolition costs were said to be $15,000. In total, this brings the cost of acquiring a building lot to $113,850. It doesn't take much thought for buyers to conclude that in the long haul, they would be much better off to acquire a ready-to-build site in an area with other homes valued in the range of the $250,000 home they are required to build under this CRA legislation. In addition, prospective buyers would also conclude that building in a development such as Monticello or the Sanctuary would naturally insulate and protect their investment that they would have to make to meet the requirements of the CRA abatement. Consequently, there would be no interest in what this CRA legislation has to offer for owner-occupied prospective homeowners. How many members of council think it would be a good investment for someone to spend $363,850 to acquire a lot in their neighborhood and build a $250,000 house? Is it even possible to build a $250,000 home on a lot in your neighborhood? Would participants in this program need to purchase 2 lots and demolish 2 structures to meet setback and other code requirements? Obviously, this would greatly increase land acquisition costs for a building site. How many people do you know who, 1, shop for property in need of demolition in North Canton, 2, qualify for a mortgage approaching $400,000, 3, are willing to wait months and months for completion of construction, 4, want to move into a home that is surrounded by homes that are worth a fraction of what they just expended for their new home, and 5, realize that many of the homes in their neighborhood are single-family rentals. These are the thought processes that prospective homebuyers would run through in their decision-making process. Multi-millionaire developers, on the other hand, would love the corporate charity this program provides them. It would spur construction of more rentals in North Canton and provide them with tax abatements to boot. In effect, it would provide for what we saw just a few years ago with North Ridge Place Apartments. I am talking about the tax abatement given to a 40-unit apartment complex on North Main Street. If you have forgotten, that is where investors in a 40-unit apartment complex were given a nearly $1 million official claim they knew nothing about it. This CRA legislation would now make such abatements a common everyday practice. I ask that each and every member of City Council think this legislation through for themselves and vote with an independent mind. Do not be persuaded with a color slide and a snake oil presentation offering unattainable results. Shelve this legislation so that North Canton City Schools do not suffer a loss of tax revenue, but can continue to remain academically and financially strong. And I also am very much opposed to sticking an amphitheater on a postage stamp in Bitzard Park. Put it in an area that would be more utilitarian and more useful for the citizens of North Canton. Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck.
Thank you.
Up next is Miss Rita Palmer. There she is.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. My name is Rita Palmer, and I live at 307 Fairview Street Southeast in North Canton. Tonight, I would like to speak in opposition to placing a bandstand in Bitzer Park. The first reason that I'm against this action is that concerts and similar activities will further encourage the desecration of the Veterans Memorial that was established in the park in 2010. This area should be respected and not used as a children's playground and stroller parking lot where people of all ages can walk on the dedicated bricks while they try to find a flat area to place a folding chair for a concert. Secondly, during past events, such as the Christmas tree lighting, citizens have had to crawl all over every inch of space to get near the speaker. With concerts, listeners will be sitting on the grass, stepping on the flowers, tossing their cigarette butts and candy wrappers on the ground, and spreading out on the sidewalks of Main and East Maple. All nearby streets will need to be closed for every scheduled event because the location is too small for such activities. A third reason to oppose making the park into a concert venue is that you plan to cut 27 of the 34 mature trees from the park. What makes a park are trees, Have you forgotten the hundreds of trees that were removed to the east of Bitzer Park to create not a park, but a parking lot? Have you not learned anything about beautifying the inner core of our city? The renovated Bitzer Park might as well be called Bitzer Car Park or Bitzer Super Slab. The bandstand belongs in Dogwood Park or Price Park, where there's already ample room for cars and people and a new pavilion for bands and speakers. There are reasons for holding fairs, fireworks, art shows, and tag sales at these wide open locations. You have room there and do not need to destroy the park to make it better. Finally, because I know you will likely ignore everything I just said, let me add this. Put the bandstand on the front lawn of the former Hoover property between Church and East Maple Streets. Make the area an expanded park. Add maple trees like in the old days. Put in a circle of flags. Give us citizens something to see besides windows into an everlasting contaminated construction site. Remember, you were elected to represent us, not frustrate and ignore us citizens. As Dominic said in the opening prayer, please do the right thing. Thank you.
And finally, we have Mr. Blubaugh. Mr. Blubaugh, are you there?
Yes, I am.
When you're ready.
Hello, this is Joseph Blubaugh at 256 Glenwood Street, Southwest. Tonight, I'd also like to talk about the Bitzer Park improvement issue. But first, I just want to mention concerning the CRA that I wrote a email to City Council on June 11th. So I hope that you all received that and you had a chance to analyze the data that I presented. Concerning Bitzer Park improvements that were passed as an emergency ordinance 2 weeks ago, the council asked the city to have Ohio Department of Natural Resources Urban Forester Lola Lewis review the plan and to be open to possible modifications based on her professional advice. Of particular concern was the plan to remove most of the large trees in the park. In its special council meeting on June 10th, the council repeated its request that the city contact Lola Lewis and invite her to review the Bitzer plans for possible changes to incorporate some of the current large trees. Parks Superintendent Brian Hill did contact Lola Lewis on Friday, June 12th, but instead of inviting her to review the plans, he informed her that the plans were too far along to be modified, which is exactly the opposite of what City Council asked the city to do. Since, as of last Friday, June 19th, Ms. Lewis was still not invited by the city to review the plans, I decided to start an online petition for residents of North Canton. It can be found at www.gopetition.com, and it reads as follows. Bitzer Park is a small park in the center of North Canton, Ohio. It contains a Veterans Memorial, paths and benches, and 34 large mature trees which surround an open grassy area. City Council recently passed an ordinance to build a bandstand and outdoor seating in the open grassy area. The bandstand will be a nice addition to the park. However, the plans also call for the removal of 27 of the 34 large trees to be replaced by fewer small immature trees. The bandstand could be built by removing only one large tree. The other 26 large trees could remain if the new planned walkways were slightly modified. In particular, the 12 large trees along Main and Maple Streets are not near the planned bandstand or even the new walkways, but are still planned to be removed. Just as the plans preserve the current Veterans Memorial, they should also preserve as many of the current large trees as possible. Large trees are what makes a park enjoyable. And then the statement that anyone signing the petition says that We, the undersigned, call on the city of North Canton to modify the plans for the Bitzer Park improvements to preserve as many of the large trees as possible, in particular the 12 large trees along Main and Maple Streets. I published the petition yesterday morning, and as of this afternoon, more than 170 people have signed it. It was mentioned on June 8th that some community groups, June 8th when this ordinance was passed, it was mentioned on June 8th that some community groups were consulted during the planning stage. But were any citizens consulted? And even those who were consulted, were they asked only about the bandstand or also about the removal of the trees? I think by the large response to the petition about the trees, we can see that the answers would have been had they been asked. You can't have an enjoyable park without large trees. Spending money to destroy large, beautiful trees and then spending more money to plant new, tiny trees wastes money and makes a park look more like a parking lot. The plans should be modified before bidding to separate out the construction of the bandstand from the remodeling of the walkways and sidewalks. Only one large tree must be removed to construct the bandstand, while all the other tree removal is for the new walkways and sidewalks. In fact, the new sidewalks along Main and Maple Streets will be no wider than the current ones, but the plan still calls for destroying all 12 large trees along those streets. Sidewalks can be built to accommodate the roots of nearby trees and still be ADA compliant. It is not necessary to take out the nearby trees. In this way, the bandstand construction could move forward while a review is made and separate plans agreed to and then bid out for the walkways and sidewalks. We all want to do what is best for North Canton. We all want the city to prosper and grow and be an enjoyable place to live. However, the current Bitzer plans to remove the trees would both cost the city unnecessarily and benefit no one. To make North Canton better, we must do things that benefit everyone, like building the Bitzer bandstand and making downtown more attractive by preserving the large trees that are in Bitzer Park. That is what will bring more people to North Canton and keep our property values high. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Thanks, Joe.
Okay. Ben, that concludes our visitors.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, thank you all. All right, next on the agenda, old business. May I have a motion and a second to read by title only ordinance 19-20?
Hey, can you exclude me, please? It's down.
Oh, yeah.
And also Stroya, please.
And yeah, so let the record reflect that members Fonte and Stroya will remove themselves from this. Ben, can you put them on mute?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I've asked for a motion and a second to read by title only ordinance 19-20.
Revolt moves.
Serrata second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, motion carries. Tim?
An ordinance implementing sections 373565 through 373570 of the Ohio Revised Code, establishing and describing the boundaries of a community reinvestment area in the city of North Canton, designating a housing officer to administer the program, creating a community reinvestment area housing council, and a tax incentive review council.
All right, thank you. Chairman Revolt.
Thank you very much. Council, in your packets tonight, you have an amended copy of what you have you previously voted on. I would bring your attention, and I'll have a motion to amend, but I bring your attention to section 5A1 is on the bottom of page, or it's on page 2, about midway down. Again, 5A1, which limits the single family projects no more than 10 per year. Right, so we imposed a small cap. The second amendment, which is new for tonight, is at the bottom of page 2, the final paragraph. And it says that when council determines construction or remodeling of a commercial or industrial property may involve the exemption it shall, the city shall, at the earliest possible time, notify the appropriate Board of Education and assist in negotiations if the superintendent deems it appropriate. So the idea is to advise our partner at the earliest possible time so it can prepare for any negotiation on a commercial or industrial project that might come along. So they've got some time to think it through. And importantly is that if the superintendent deems it appropriate, the city would be willing to assist in any negotiations. So we would go into it hopefully as a partner. So those are the two amendments. Are there any questions or comments?
This is Tim. I just have a caveat for the First Amendment.
Tim?
Because of residential CRA applications are turned in historically and by statute and ordinance when the project is completed. But generally, those that are going to invest and do these types of projects, normally they'll contact the housing officer, perhaps before they begin, ask questions about, do you think this is sufficient? What types of things can lead to the exemptions? But the application itself, unlike for the commercial and industrial, for the residential, it's only at the end. It's only when it's done that they turn in the application. And although I think it's going to be highly unlikely that we would have more than 10 that would reach for this type of amendment with that price tag on it, I think that the city would want to just advertise highly and make sure that that information is out there, because what could occur in a wholly unlikely event is that number 11 shows up and 10 are done. Now that next one could apply to the next year.
Yep.
But they would be reduced a year. So in the unlikely event that someone is pursuing this and not contacting anyone at the city and then wishes to turn in 11, still council can take a look at that. But I think if the administration housing officer is does a good job in getting that information out, especially if we have applications that are approved are turned in during the year, so someone would know, maybe it'd be better next year to finish the project, to take the full advantage of the tax exemption.
Well, Tim, I don't think we're going to get caught by surprise on this, because you need to have a demolition permit. So somebody is going to have to come into the city to get a permit for demo.
Yes.
So, and here's the other point is that if this program is operated properly, this puts a little pressure on the administration. We should have an annual review. So this thing the housing council should meet, the Turk, it should come back in front of this council or a council for analysis. And as I've said before, this is an experiment. We're going to see if it works.
Yeah.
And I'm not as pessimistic as Mr. Osborne. I know, for example, over at Orchard Hill School, there's a demo that went down. One of the house is down. There's a new one being built on the property. There's a second one being built behind it. Now, is the new construction, does it exceed the value of the neighborhood? The answer is yes, it does. And if you go over on to Summit and Glenwood, the homes there generally exceed the value of the homes, some of the homes around them, particularly over on Cordelia. So I'm guardedly optimistic this is worth trying. So Any other questions or comments about the amendments?
Yeah, member Folt's comment. Let's hope we have that problem when we have more than 10.
Oh,
So we
sure.
have
Oh,
to
yes.
figure out how to make it all work, because that means it's successful. So
Yep.
let's be enthusiastic and give it a try. That's my comment. Thank you, Derek.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll look at it in a year. Okay, if there aren't any other comments or questions, then can I have a motion to adopt the third reading of ordinance? Well, let me
you need to
have a
amend first,
motion
Darryl.
for the amendments. I need
Yeah.
a motion to amend ordinance 19-2020.
Soretta, motion to amend?
Revolt, second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Now,
Motion carries. All right.
can we have a motion to adopt as amended ordinance 19-2020?
Folt's motions.
Revolt, seconds.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Ben, can you bring members Stroya and Fonte back into the meeting? Let the record reflect they have rejoined.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we're good to go?
I believe so. They say they're unmuted.
I'm unmuted.
I'm here. Yep.
All right. Okay, at this time, may I have a motion and a second to read by title only ordinance 27-20.
So moved by Folt.
Revolt, seconds.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Tim?
An ordinance to amend chapter 111 of the codified ordinances of the city of North Canton, specifically section 111.12, salaries and bonds, in order to establish amounts for public officials' surety bonds.
All right, thank you, Tim. This is the third and final reading. This establishes a council shall set salaries and bonds for all elected officials, appointed officials, city employees. The mayor and the director of administration shall give bond in the amount of $50,000, and the director of finance in the amount of $250,000. Any questions before the third reading? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second to adopt third reading ordinance 27-20.
Revolt moves.
Second,
Folt,
Waring.
second.
All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. May I have a motion and a second to read by title only ordinance 30-20?
Revolt moves.
Second
Waring,
Folt.
second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Soretta, abstain?
Soretta abstain. Motion approves, passes 6-0. Tim?
An ordinance authorizing the appropriation of funds of the city of North Canton to be appropriated from the unappropriated.
Tim on mute.
Sorry, maybe I am. You got me now? All right. An ordinance authorizing the appropriation of funds of the city of North Canton.
Did we lose Tim?
I hear him.
I can hear Tim.
I hear him.
Karen.
Okay. You have me, Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, I'll
Did-
start again.
I hear him.
Okay, I lost him for the whole thing there. Could you read that again, Tim, please?
I will. An ordinance authorizing the appropriation of funds of the city of North Canton to be appropriated from the unappropriated resources of the general fund for current expenses during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2020.
All right, thank you. Chairwoman Waring. Oh.
Yes, we have talked about, oh, go ahead. Dominic, did you have something?
This is
No, that
Ben.
wasn't me.
Oh, sorry, Ben.
If I may make a point of clarification, last week, council amended out the line from the appropriated resources of the general fund.
Okay, yeah, you're right. All right, so let me, all right, so it's authorizing the appropriation of funds of the city of North Canton to be appropriated for current expenses during the fiscal year ending December 31, 2020, correct?
Correct.
Okay, okay. Chairwoman Ware.
We have talked about this on numerous occasions and just a different allocation for different funds. Any other questions?
No.
Gina, any other thoughts?
Nope.
Okay, nothing's changed. Okay, so I move to adopt.
Second by Foltz.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Surratt abstain.
Surratt abstains. Motion passes 6-0. All right, thank you. Moving on, may I have a motion and a second to read by title only ordinance 34-20?
Revolt moves.
Second, Foltz.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Tim?
An ordinance amending Part 11, planning and zoning of the codified ordinances of the city of North Canton, specifically Chapter 1181 amendments as described below.
Thank you. Chairman Revolt.
All right, as we've discussed previously, we have two pertinent amendments in this ordinance. The first is that we're placing responsibility for receiving applications and tracking that application through the entire process with the clerk of council. That's contained in 118102. Second, and this is important, we are requiring that there be a pre-application meeting and with the building department, superintendent permits, the building officer. And the purpose is to prevent a project from moving too far, the cost of a project from accumulating before an applicant really understands whether he can do the project. So rather than have an attorney and go through the entire process and have it appear in front of the planning commission, spend a lot of cash, we'd like to try to get this application reviewed or discussed prior to formal submission, and that language is contained in 118103. And that is it, Mr. President.
All right. Any other comments? Is there a motion and a second to adopt?
Foltz motions. Foltz second.
Surratt a second. All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Motion carries. We have a motion and a second to read by title only resolution 3-20.
So move, Foltz.
Surratt a second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right. Motion carries. Tim?
Resolution authorizing the pickup of employee contributions for the voluntary purchase of military service credit, City of North Canton eligible full-time employees of the city police and fire EMS departments, members of the Ohio Police and Fire Pension Fund for a payroll reduction pickup plan.
Okay. The city is offering a voluntary purchase of military service credit for the certain full-time employees that qualify. This is provided for in the Ohio Revised Code and the Ohio Administrative Code. Gina, anything to add, further to add?
Nothing further.
I'm sorry?
No, I have nothing further. This was by request of an employee, and so Ohio Police and Fire require that the city approve this so that we can do payroll deduction for him to purchase his military time.
Okay, outstanding. All right, if there's no further comments or questions, a motion and a second to adopt the second reading resolution 30-20.
Revolt moves.
Surratt a second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, motion carries. Moving on to new business. May I have a motion and a second to read by title only ordinance 36-20?
Revolt moves.
Surratt a
We're in
second.
second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Bye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Tim?
An ordinance authorizing the Director of Administration of the City of North Canton to advertise and receive bids according to specifications now on file in the Director's office for construction of sidewalk along north side of 7th Street Northeast between Woodside Avenue and Weber Avenue project and declaring the same to be an emergency.
All right, thank you. Chairman Fonte.
Yes, so we talked about this last week. So they just want to get bids to see what kind of costs we're talking about. There's some logistics to do as far as approvals and that kind of thing. There's two pieces of sidewalk, one on Weber. It ends at Weber. And let's see here. I'm trying to think. It was Woodside, I think. It ended at Woodside. So it stops at Woodside. picks up at Weber, and then there's a big gap between. So what they want to do is just get a bid to see what we're talking about. And that's what we're looking to do is I move that we approve that if there's no questions.
All right. Do we have a second?
Read a second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, motion carries. We have a motion and a second to suspend the rules of council for 3 readings.
So moved. Revolt moves.
Warren, second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, motion carries. And finally, a motion and a second to adopt under suspension of the rules for ordinance 3.
Revolt moves.
Warren, second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries. We have a motion and a second to read by title only Resolution 31-20. Or what? Yeah, yeah.
No, it's 5-2.
5.
I move we read 5-2020. Revolt moves.
Hold second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, motion carries. Tim?
A resolution declaring the city of North Canton's necessity and intent for purposes of constructing a safety service center to appropriate the fee simple title and interest in and to the premises described in the general warranty deed attached hereto and incorporated herein as Exhibit A and declaring the same to be an emergency.
All right, thank you. Chairwoman Warren.
Okay, that was not me. I want to make that noted.
Sure.
Like, can we be clear about that? Okay. I know
It's
that was
on the
trying.
record.
Hey,
No,
Stephanie,
I want it noted that it's not me, the only
Stephanie,
female. I would be proud.
Someone enjoy it.
Let the
I
record.
know.
How's the court reporter going to record that? What does that come through the transcript?
All I wanted is it noted that it's not me. The one
All right.
female, I'm not going to take the blame. I'm not doing
You're
it.
right, Stephanie. I'll concur with your assessment.
Let the record reflect that.
That did not sound like Stephanie.
Correct. She's too much of a lady. Anyway.
Oh, my
Okay.
God.
I'm sorry. I had to go. I'm so sorry. So we talked about this with the buying of different properties and a different line item that we needed. Are there any more discussion for this?
No.
Okay. Pat did a great job explaining it last week, as well as Gina. If no other discussion, then I move to adopt without any exclamation point.
Second by Foltz.
All right,
Thank
all
you.
in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, motion carries. We have a motion and a second to suspend the rules of council requiring 3 readings.
So moved, Warren.
Revolt seconds.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, motion carries. And finally, a motion and a second to adopt under suspension of the rules.
So moved, Warren.
Revolt seconds.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, moving on. Department reports. Deputy Director of Administration.
Thank you. I have no report tonight.
Right. Thank you, Catherine. Director of Administration.
Yes, thank you. I would just add that perhaps over summer break, if need be, and I need to host a meeting in order to purchase a property, that would be about the only exception I could find. And those closings tend to have a life of their own. But I think we're okay through the summer break. But if something were to change, I'll let the council president know.
All right.
That's my report.
All right. Thank you, Patrick. Mayor, you're up.
Yes, good evening. Thank you, President Peters. I do have some closing comments. I want to thank you for your oversight tonight on the ordinances that have been presented and resolutions. I'd just like to address the community reinvestment area passage. Providing financial and tax incentives to companies has become an accepted economic development practice for states and communities to attract and retain business. Understandably, this practice continues to generate debate, pushback, and criticism. In North Canton, we have locations of geographic areas of our community that need development or redevelopment. We are taking actions in public investment, demonstrating the administration and council's commitment for community and economic development. Incentives are not inherently good or bad, right or wrong. They are economic development tools that create tangible benefits for the community. Incentives are an investment in our community, and more often than not, incentives are the cost of doing business in today's competitive marketplace. Competitors, meaning other communities and states, offer incentives, and therefore to remain competitive, we must have incentives equal to or greater than those offered by our competitors. A community without incentives has a difficult, if not impossible, task of competing. Regardless of the pros or cons, the challenge to government, business, and education, primarily our North Canton City Schools Administration and the Board of Education, will be to work together to develop strategies that differentiate incentive investments as investments in all these, as I've mentioned, for this community's future, and not as giveaways to business. I'd like to also address the approval for going forward with the bids for the 7th Street as we look to try to help our school-aged children and families in that area have better access to the high school and in just walking in that area and getting off the street there of 7th Street. I want to pass on something about the from a Stark County Complete Counts Committee Chair, Commissioner Richard Regula. It's in regard to the census. As the chair of the Stark County Complete Counts Committee for the 2020 census, he is encouraging everyone to share with their communities the importance of responding to the census. As of June 19th, the response rate for Stark County is 70.9%. Due to the COVID-19, the census workers have not been able to be out in the field collecting data in person. So we are at risk of having a much lower response rate than previously, which will negatively impact all our communities in a variety of ways. It's about $675 billion. The distribution of more than that, $675 billion in federal funds, grants, and support the states, counties, and communities is based on census data. That money is spent on schools, hospitals, roads, public works, and other vital programs. The state of Ohio receives roughly $33.5 billion, with over $1 billion going to Stark County. That means with every uncounted person, Stark County loses $2,900 in funding. They're asking us to get the message out through our city governments that everyone needs to be counted. As of June 17th, 2020, our response rate right now is at 77.8% of our community has responded to the completing the census questionnaire. In 2010, we are at 84%. It's very simple, folks, to get the message out that all anyone has to do is visit my2020census.gov to begin. You can respond online, respond by mail, or mail back a paper questionnaire. And on their website, they even have the 12 questions that you can look at to prepare your answers to complete that. As far as I know, the completion date for that is October 31st of this year. I just wanted to bring that to council's attention. As you're talking with your constituents, please remind them that that is important for us, for every dollar that can come back to help us out. You know, we're still dealing with a coronavirus, and folks, remember, it doesn't discriminate who we are or where we're from. I just want to remind all of us when we're out and about that the best way to prevent illness is to avoid, just being exposed to the virus. maintain our physical distancing when we're, unless you're with your family, okay? Make sure that you're, keep your hands clean, wash your hands with soap and water, as they suggest, 20 seconds, especially if you've been in a public place or after blowing your nose, coughing, or sneezing. These are recommendations, again, from the CDC. I mentioned maintaining 6 feet between a person, especially if they're sick, or someone even in your household. You have to be very, very careful on that. And the main thing is, I think when you're getting out, from all I ever read, it comes across my desk, is just require face coverings for yourself and your loved ones. I know if you're in your office, you may not be wearing it, but when you're in public, if you can, and it's safe for you to do so, wear a facial covering. And again, that's only if that's safe for you to do so. It's highly recommended, but it's not totally required. However, some businesses may do so, so just be cognizant of that. Maintain your own good hygiene, and just keep and sanitize your workplace and what you do at home, and just monitor your own health and safety. Let's see.
Mayor, did you want to mention about the food market expansion?
Oh, yes, thank you, Mr. Diorio. I forgot. Folks, we've had a pretty good success with our opening of our North Canton market and farmers market. Again, if you haven't been up there, it's located at the O'Keefe Mart, 1447 North Main Street. It's been going for 3 weeks now, on Wednesdays from 3 to 7. The first hour from 3 to 4 is open for seniors or people who feel that they may be at risk during the coronavirus that we're dealing with. The first week we were open, we had over 800 people. Second week we were open, we had over 900 people. This third week, we've had over 1,100 attending that North Canton Farmers Market. The reviews have been very positive from the vendors and the participants. And there is social or physical distancing, and people are wearing their face masks as they deem fit. Good news is on July 11th, we are making an extension of the North Canton Farmers Market for Saturdays. It'll be at the same location, the old Kmart location there. And we're going to do something either like 9 to 1 or 8 to noon. But we had some other farmers that contacted the coordinators for this. And they're looking to come on Saturdays. And this is going to accommodate, hopefully, those who cannot get there on a Wednesday night, but we'll be able to provide something on Saturdays also. And we're very excited about that. And I think that's been going very well for our community. And it speaks well for the organizers, the Groschmidts, for that. And it's been a nice addition and something a little lighter to deal with as we've gone through our daily tasks. I do want our listeners to understand, I am sensitive to the Bitzer Park issue. And, it is a beautiful park, and it's located right in downtown. And it's adjacent to the Y and across the street from the Hoover Complex, and easily accessible from parking off of Maple. And it has been a foundation for us for many events that we've had going on there. And pardon me 1 second here. And again, in 2012, there is a master plan that talked about the development of that area. And I know we're going through a lot of changes right now throughout our world, but I understand the desire to protect our trees, and it's not unique. And the redesigning of Bitzer Park has been discussed for several years. I think the vision of the park was to improve it, to make it more usable and provide a space where residents and visitors and general public can interact with each other, and also have an opportunity to take a look at the Veterans Memorial that has been placed there. I think in the long run, we're just trying to create a better space for events and people to engage in social activity, be it a picnic, maybe it is a small concert or performance. It could be just your reading circle or meeting a family or friend member to have a cup of coffee. just a nice place where people can still congregate or get together in the center of our town. I think it adds a better sense of community and then community engagement. I think careful consideration will still be taken for the existing trees, plants, and shrubs. There are trees in the park that will probably be removed for various reasons. It may be that they're either unhealthy or unstable or in the general state of decline, or it may be removed, as you know, as redevelopment of that area if all the other options are exhausted. And yes, new trees could be planted there, maybe low maintenance trees or shrubs that could dramatically reduce landscaping costs or other things that might be affecting the park. I think we're just trying to find some optimal use for that. And however, sometimes the trees will be felled. And however, there is the option to evaluate mature trees, as has been stated by our readers tonight. And they can be preserved and precautions can be taken to have new trees planted. So we have a small public park and it's in the center of our town. And we want to see it to be the best that it can be as an attractive piece for their center. It's been in partnership with, gone through review with the YMCA, the Chamber of Commerce, and the 13 people who served on that 2012 development or steering committee. And it could provide some other amenities, again, that could support event programming or just increase community use, that's all. Folks, I know since 2008, we've been waiting for the front lawn of the Hoover Building at that intersection of our Main and Maple Streets to be developed. I think the vision has always been to have the lower floors of the building occupied, having the front lawn being used, having an outdoor extension of their ground floor activities, and hopefully having something to the effect that maybe outdoor cafes or walkway or benches or lights that and improved or renewed landscaping that would really transform this center of our town into an active and central green space and a vibrant little part of our Main Street Square. So even though that we haven't progressed as I think we wanted to with that part of our downtown, I still believe it's in our best interest to still go forward and look at the redesigning or redevelopment of Bitzer Park to make it more of a community location for us and for community engagement. So I do thank you for your time, allowing me to share a few thoughts and concerns about it as we go forward. So thank you very much for your attention tonight. Completes my comments.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. Director of Law.
Mayor had very compelling and timely comments, and I could do no better than second those, so I have no further report.
All right, thank you. Director of Finance.
Thank you. I just have a couple of things. I wanted to remind the public that Dogwood Pool is opening July 1st. There's more information about passes and how they're addressing the social distancing on the YMCA's website. Our audit report for this year, we did receive, I think every entity received a 30-day extension. So the filing is due June 30th, and then the audit of the CAFR will be done by July 30th. So as we finish those, I'll be communicating hopefully a clean audit report for the council to review. And then my third and final item, the Office of Budget and Management did communicate that the governor signed House Bill 481 on Friday, and they have sent the distribution to the counties. Stark County should receive $11.5 million on Tuesday, tomorrow, and then they have about 7 to 10 days to distribute to each of the locals. So the city of North Canton is estimated to receive about $352,000 for very specific COVID-related expenses incurred to respond to the public health emergency. So we will be defining those and separating those into a separate fund, which we did at last council meeting. So we are all set and ready to go. That's all I had.
All right, good stuff. Thank you, Gina. Engineer Graham.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to touch base quickly on a couple of our high-profile projects. First one is our Apple Grove resurfacing. You may have noticed that our polymer surface asphalt has been applied. I'm quite happy with how it's turned out there. Still have some striping to do at the North Main intersection and also the Starcliff intersection. We've got to get those stop bars and crosswalks and the lane arrows out there striped. That'll be a little bit of an interruption of traffic, but we're trying to get them to do that after hours to keep that to a minimum. But with this weather, we kind of get what we get. Also, we still have in the next couple of weeks about 30 manholes to adjust the grade with that Mr. Manhole method. You've seen that where we have the concrete ring kind of around it that we colored a dark color like the asphalt. So we'll have a little bit of tie-ups with that, but nothing in the intersection except the striping. You may have noticed that our Portage resurfacing project started last week. Our subcontractors in there doing all the concrete ADA curb ramp work. The weather permits, we should have that wrapped up by the end of the week. And then hopefully in early July, our paving contractor will get in there and knock that out. That's the plan. But again, kind of at the mercy of the weather, and it's not looking to be a very good week for us. But things are moving along. If there's any questions, please my report, Mr. President.
All right, thank you, Rob. Council Clerk Young.
I have no reports this week.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, on to council reports. Member Fultz.
Thank you. Appreciate all the comments about Bitzer Park. Unfortunately, I haven't been in town last 2 weeks as often as I'd like to be, and I do want to take another look at that. I think we owe it to our residents, our constituents. Even if we save a couple more trees down there, I think it's worth looking at. I don't think it's going to hold the project up. So I would like to look at that a little closer. I mean, it's not just the oak trees. Some of them aren't in the best of health on some of the corners there, both on Main and East Maple. But there's locusts, there's a buckeye tree, there's maples, there's some trees within the park itself that are hopefully going to be saved. Obviously, I haven't gone out and really walked it. I'd like to take a closer look at that. I think it's a positive overall what we're doing, but I think we still need to be sensitive to what we can do to keep mature trees if we can fit it into a plan. So those are my comments. Thank you. Hope to revisit it.
All right, thank you, Doug. I have a couple comments. First of all, I'd like to thank council for approving the advertising of bids for the sidewalk on 7th Street. I live in that area. I see young children, adults walking that street. It becomes a very dangerous situation, especially when there are, JC Fair, football games, that type of thing. We've had some incidents in that area where folks had to walk in the street, cars parked on the street, and it's really only a matter of time before something really, really bad happens down there. So I hope that once we get these bids in, we can find the money in the budget and move forward with that. And Mayor, I'd like to thank you for your comments as well regarding CRA, and a special thanks to Daryl for all the work you've done. You've really simplified for us and for the community, really, just the basic points, and it just made it a lot easier for us to understand, and I appreciate your work on that. And also Council Clerk Young for facilitating a few meetings and communication between council and the school board. So that's it. Member Warren. Steph?
Hi, sorry. No report, just thanks for everybody's explanation tonight. And Mayor, thank you for your thoroughness in your report.
All right. Member Fonte.
Yes, thanks for all this input from our citizens and the mayor. 3 things. I would just say it's probably not a bad idea if we wanted to meet out at the Bitzer Park and take a look at the trees. but we are laymen, so I'm all for trying to save as many trees as you can. But if it's not efficient to do that, which I can't tell myself, I would think if we have an expert look at it that looks at it from the proper eye, we could still do the bandstand. I think the bandstand's a great idea. I think we need to have activities downtown that goes with the big theme. But if we can save some extra trees, let's consider that, guys and ladies. Small businesses, always remember, they're the backbone of our country. We're not all Fortune 100 or 500. So let's focus on making sure we promote our local businesses.
We lose Don?
I think, Dom, I got you back. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, can you guys hear me? So the farmers market's awesome. And then I know there's been a food truck right there in the back of our parking lot there at Cutler, sausage sandwiches and so forth. I had one the other day. It was really good. So again, thanks for everybody's input. Enjoy the second day of summer, and thanks for everything, guys and ladies.
All right. Thank you, Dom. Member Revolt.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just responding to a couple comments. First of all, I want to thank our citizens who present themselves during public speaks. As many of you who've been to my home know that I've got trees that surround my home that are 85 years old or older. In fact, I probably have one of the largest hemlocks in Stark County beside my home. But as I've been up to Bitzer Park twice in the last week, and I think to the law director's comment, we do have a liability with the condition of the sidewalks and where the sidewalks butt the curb. We have enough activity there that we should be concerned about addressing the sidewalks. I looked at the trees. At least 4 of them are clearly diseased and should probably come down. The others, I do not believe will withstand the reinstallation of sidewalks because the cuts will be so deep. The interesting thing is I happen to have Joe's proposal for a tree commission. None of those trees in question, or I should say none, but very few of them meet the requirements of tree placement that Joe recommended. So as we look at this, I think the important thing is, to Pat's point, is we don't want to have to come back out and redo this project in 5 years after some of these dying trees have been taken down or come down. An 80-foot tree is a pretty big tree. And they have a very large root ball. And I think we need to acknowledge that. And again, while I appreciate everyone's concern, I come back to this very fundamental point. That park is used for multiple public events. I shudder to think at a recent event had someone tripped on the curb and fallen into traffic, what the outcome might have been. So as much as I would like to see those trees saved, I'm not convinced that it's practical in a variety of ways. Number 2 is this, and I thank the mayor's comments on our CRA. We live in an unhistorical age where we like to forget the past, but if you'll indulge me for a minute, there was a nearby community that went to great expense to rebuild major thoroughfares with very expensive streetscapes. But at the same time, the community walked away from its CRA program. And the development, downtown and industrial, didn't occur. It went through nearly a decade of virtually no growth. And the situation was aggravated when a major employer left town, putting a significant dent in that city's revenues. Well, the city did 2 things. First of all, it figured out how to land bank property. And the second, it brought back its CRA. And investment and jobs returned to that city and contribute to its current economic health. I would draw everybody's attention to Spitzer. What would our critics say if a developer came to us and said, you know, I'm going to put a $10 million building on that site, but I need a tax abatement? What would our response be? Would we let it sit for another 15 or 20 years? Or would we try to get brick and mortar on the corner? I think that's the dilemma that we have. We may not necessarily like this tool, but if it's used wisely, as it was in the case of the municipality I just described, it can produce huge long-term benefits. So, as I've argued before, the choice is the status quo or investment and action. That's it, Mr. President.
All right. Thank you, Daryl. Member Soretta.
Yeah, a couple of things. First of all, Steve had mentioned about the census. Maybe we need to put a little reminder on our water bill there for some folks, maybe for the next 3 months. It only takes about a line or so. We can continue that to get those numbers up a little bit. Getting little comments on the Bitzer Park here, and I'm really excited for the plan for Bitzer Park. I think this is where I think we are getting in the weeds with the trees here a little bit here. I think what we're going to get out of this is just a fabulous place that can be used for many, many years, many generations for people. And as the new trees grow, it'll be even better and better. This is a park right now that's got a lot of eclectic things. There's so many things in it. And what we're trying to do is reorganize this thing to really house a lot of different events, not only just with the small concert venue there with the amphitheater, but you know, things like the YMCA, you know, kind of reorganize them. Maybe they can do yoga classes. Maybe the library has a lot more special kids programs. You know, we'll have small concerts here weekly during the summer, bringing people downtown and help our community in general. And the new trees will have a lot more power and electric to them, so we can light them up during the whole seasonal events and everything. It's going to be a very special place for many, many generations. And fixing those sidewalks and creating new things is a must to make this thing the special thing that we need. So yes, we should look at where we're going with that. We do need some shade there, but I really think that the plan that is in place right now, I'm excited for it. And I think in the end, it'll be a place we can be proud of for many, many generations going down. So that's my comments on that.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mark. Member Stroya.
Hey, everybody. Want to thank Chuck, Rita, and Joseph for speaking. Thank you to the mayor for your weekly address and your comments today. And then along with what Mark is saying, if we could put the My 2020 census in the water bill and maybe on the city Facebook page, get some more participation there. That's all I have, except for maybe give a little bit of extra effort to support your local businesses, as Dominic says as well. And also, yeah, Rob, the curbs on Portage look great. I'm looking at them right now, and everything's looking good. So thank you, everybody.
All right. Thank you, Matt. Okay, final call for new business. Council? All right, seeing none. Our meeting calendar, June 29th, we have Committee of the Whole. July 6th, Committee of the Whole. And July 13th will be City Council meeting. This will be our last meeting before summer break. All of these will be via Zoom. And we return on August 17th for Committee of the Whole. And as Patrick stated, if he needs us for purchase of land, we will reconvene during that time. Okay, at this time, I'm going to need a motion and a second to enter into executive session. This is for the sole purpose of discussing, conferring with the law director, an ongoing legal dispute involving the public body that is subject to imminent court action.
So move, Warren.
Second, Revolt.
Second.
All right.
Soretta may be abstained for this, I believe.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, you'd like to abstain, Member Serrata.
Yes, you
Okay.
will. Let the record reflect that Member Serrata will not be joining us in executive session. All in favor?
Roll
Aye.
call.
We need a roll call on
Roll
it.
call.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. You are right. Ben, please call the roll. Thank you, Daryl.
Member Waring?
Here.
Yes.
Yes, affirmative.
We know
Member
you're here.
Revolt?
Yes.
Member Fonte?
Yes.
Member Stroya?
Yes.
Member Peters?
Yes.
Member Foltz?
Yes.
And Serrata abstained,
Abstain.
6-4.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. We now are in executive session. Ben, I will wait until you give me the go ahead.
Patrick. All right, I'm going to open up the breakout rooms for everyone.
Okay. I need a motion.
I move we adjourn the executive session without action.
Second for Foltz.
All right. Roll call vote.
Just need a voice vote on
Just
this.
voice vote, yeah.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, motion carries. And as Daryl said, no action was taken. That concludes this agenda. I entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Foltz motions.
Second, Troy.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned. Have a great evening, everyone.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Night.
Good night.
Good night, Ben.